While our time here at Yale seems long, it is long. It's been a long 3 years for me, ups and downs, experiences of joy, as well as sorrow, stress, anxiety from academics to everyday life. But I am grateful for many things, especially a space to come and wrestle with deep theological questions such as, what did Jesus smell like? It's a serious question. Did Jesus give up bathing for Lent as I did? I'm just kidding. In Matthew and Mark, they write that Mary put the fragrance on his head, but in John we read that Mary put it on his feet. So this brother could have smelled so bad that Mary was like, a dad won't do the job, we need the whole bottle. And the room was filled with fragrance, covering up Lazarus' smell and Judas's betrayal. Then again, it probably wasn't the smell for the reason that Mary put the fragrance on Jesus. Passover was near. And so was the hour of Jesus' death. And Jesus suggests that using the perfume on him now has a more meaningful purpose, announcing the nearness of his death and preparing for his burial. This perfume, pure nard, a spice that came from the Himalaya mountains. Judas estimates that it could have been sold for 300 denarii. In our currency today, around $20,000. But any way you look at it, Mary's actions were extravagantly costly. And because of the cost, Judas and the disciples scolded Mary. Mary could have used a little bit on Jesus and sold the rest and given the money to the poor. And Judas, out of his own greed, wished that he could have pocketed some of Mary's gift. For in a few days, he would sell Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. But Jesus tells them, you always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. He was not saying we should not help the poor, but Jesus was saying he was accepting the worship that Mary gave him. Because Jesus is worthy of all that we have and all that we can give God. And Mary gave it all because she knew that Jesus is worth it all. What would we have done in this situation? Would we have used all the perfume? Or used a little? Maybe helping the poor? Perhaps not. Perhaps it's a Friday night and we want to go have some fun. I mean, we are Episcopalians, Baptists, Methodists, non-denominational, whatever denominations you may be, maybe just spend a little of the money. How do we spend our artificial means of wealth, our resources? The love of Christ should be motive in all that we do. And Judas postured himself as being concerned for the poor. But even if he had given some of the money to the poor, it would not have been out of the motivation of the love of Christ. The love that we have for God, that is the reason. But this isn't always the case. Using everything for the love of Christ. And we have seen human fallibility in our own different denominations, in our own churches. I'm finally ready to talk about what's going on in my denomination, the Episcopal Church, this schism. Let's face the facts here. More than $40 million have been spent on suing fellow Christians in the civil and ecclesiastical courts over the first 19 years of this century. And this is disgusting. This is demonic. And I want to be like Judas in this situation. Wait, couldn't that $40 million be used for evangelism, leading people to God? Couldn't that money be used to help closing churches stay open, so people can have a continued place of worship? Couldn't that money be used to assist students in seminary afford the cost of tuition and the cost of living? Yeah. Instead, both sides spend money on court fees, lawsuits, seizing control of property. Both sides suing each other because bottom line, we just can't get along. Or we're going to preach to our congregations about getting along, about love, about getting along with each other, about loving thy neighbor, but we can't do it ourselves. And if that ain't hypocritical, I don't know what is. We have on average 75 years in this world. Maybe more, maybe less. What will we do as future leaders of our churches, and for this context, the Episcopal Church? Continuing bickering and fighting amongst each other? Continuing the schism that has already started? Continuing bringing each other to the courtroom, not the church, and suing each other? What will we do? How will we lead? As future leaders, can't we see all through all this? That which deters people from the church, and many times God, and get back to the basics? We are, though. The YDS Anglican Fellowship is a movement here for our church to see through all this and get back to the basics, back to loving thy neighbor, back to loving each other, and embodying love of God towards all people, no matter your race, no matter your sexuality, no matter your gender, no matter what, and get back to the starting point. That God chose us because God loves us. That God loves us because he desires an intimate connection with each and every one of us. Something happened in our lives that connected us to God. And the more we grow with God, the more we come to understand the loving nature of Christ. The loving nature of God, who so loved the world that he gave his only Son to suffer and die on the cross. Because only on the cross is one died with hands stretched out, embracing the creation. Allowing the creation to come and witness their Creator. Come and witness the way of the cross, the way of God's love, the way of life by giving his life. Come on, somebody. As future leaders, we are called to embody love of God as best as we can as valuable human beings. Loving one another, loving our brothers and sisters and every person in Christ. Loving God, and while we're at it, loving ourselves. Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor? When I read this passage, I find myself so often placed in the position of Judas until I realized his true motives. And then I gravitate back to why Mary used him in the first place. Yes, his burial, but also to use all that we have, all that we are, and all that we can give to God. In our lives, in our journeys, in our own walks of life, each of us have seen the church be an instrument for God's love. And we are called to be instruments of God's love. In my own journey, I have seen 300 orphans gather together at St. Mark's Church in Azusa, Malawi, whose parents have passed away from AIDS, malaria, or other illnesses, come together because that church chose to raise $300 to feed them rice, bread, beans, banana, and tea. I've been part of 70 girls' lives who have been taken away from their parents after being physically, sexually, emotionally abused, but now in a safe space in San Pedro Sula, the murder capital of the world, that supports them, educates them, feeds them, clothes them, loves them. Or Lava School, a Christian school in Cambodia, that is the only state-recognized school that educates kids with a physical disability because their religion shuns them. These are some of the experiences that I've seen, felt, sensed. But we all have unique experiences. And we all have seen what the church can do when the church starts being the church, stops fighting amongst itself, but coming together in the name of Jesus, accepting our differences because we are human, and to use the money, use our resources, use our talents, use our lives, use perfume on Jesus. And make the whole world breathe in that fragrance. The fragrance of pleasure, bliss, joy, love. Have the whole world breathe in that aroma. Come to God, come to Christ, seeing Christ inside each person, loving ourselves, and loving God. Why was this money, why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor? Amen.